not running for office, Bill. I'm answering a question on a television show. If I wasn't answering the same
but the reason why you're on a television show is because you're a known strategist. So when we're asking for your strategy, and your strategy seems to be to tell the voters you don't know what you're talking about, and I don't think that's a good way to get elected. And I'm not a strategist.
Bill Maher brought the woke idiot James Carville onto his show Real Time with Bill Maher, and of course he was forced to put this woke idiot James Carville in his place for the ridiculous statements he was making. It is so exhausting to listen to people like this because their brain is completely taken over by the woke mind virus, and it really is just sad. Now let us get into this clip where Bill Maher is forced to put this absolute idiot in his place live on Real Time with Bill Maher, because the things he was saying on this episode were completely ridiculous and impossible to ignore.
You famously said it's the economy, stupid, but voters seem to be responding to positive economic news. Voters don't seem to be responding to positive economic news in the polls. How do you explain this?
Well, you know, you got 60% of the Republicans that believe the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Oh, that's not a good answer.
I'm just giving you say the polls, right? You look with 5.6% growth. All right, by any record. Now, if people don't feel it, and I think we should have made a change. You and I agree on that, and I don't know how much of it is that they can't see beyond the president. I mean, the cost of living has hurt people, but you just can't look at this economy and go out and say this is a bad economy. That's impossible.
But that's not really what you want to tell the voters.
Well, but I'm not running for office, Bill. I'm answering a question on a television show. If I wasn't answering the same
the reason why you're on a television show is because you're a known strategist. So when we're asking for your strategy, and your strategy seems to be to tell the voters you don't know what you're talking about, and I don't think that's a good way to get elected. And I'm not a strategist.
I would not say that. But you can't.
You just said it to me.
Okay.
But he's not running for office. I know, but the sweatshirt.
Here's what I think.
It is such an idiotic statement, and it feels like the woke mind virus has completely taken over. I have no doubt that James Carville is actually an intelligent person and his IQ is probably very high, but for some reason the woke mind virus genuinely takes over people like this, and it is one of the craziest things to watch. Bill Maher asked him a simple question about the economy, and instead of answering anything related to the economy, James Carville responded by talking about Republicans and saying they think the Earth is 6,000 years old or whatever he was trying to say. And the obvious question is, what does that have to do with anything? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with the topic at all. It is just avoiding the real question because he knows he will look foolish if he answers directly, because he cannot answer in a way that makes the woke side look good, and if he actually tells the truth he risks getting rejected by the woke mob. These are people who built their entire careers and lives around being accepted by that crowd and supported by that machine, so they cannot go against it. And James Carville knows exactly that, and Bill Maher knows exactly what he is doing, and he is clearly tired of it, and honestly I love seeing it.
Like, you can cite the statistics, and yes, inflation is going down, it's going in the right direction, but the things that things people buy every day in this country, bullets, eggs, gas.
Gas is down.
Not here.
I'm just telling you, the price of gas.
Yes,
we produce more, we pump more oil than we ever have in history. Anywhere. We pump more oil in Saudi Arabia. All right, just so you know that. But if you ask people, do you think that the Democrats and Biden is, oh yeah, of course he is, 100%. I can't, the fact that people believe something doesn't make it a fact. There's a big story in the Wall Street Journal today. The crime rate has dropped significantly. Try to argue with someone, but the crimes per 100,000, I think, was 738, and you're down to 362 or something like that. You got to sit here and act like I'm a factual klutz because somebody believes something that's not true. I don't buy that.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on.
Okay.
Mike.
It is honestly so ironic because Bill Maher is a comedian and he is trying to keep things entertaining and keep the vibe alive on his show without completely destroying the mood, but it is still wild to hear someone so woke and so far left say things like, I cannot have conversations with people because the other side does not believe in facts, and this is coming from the same side that before the 2020 election had everyone from Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi, along with nearly every Major left-wing voice saying they would never take the Trump jab. They called it dangerous, they called it poison, they said nobody should trust it. And then the second Joe Biden got elected and took office, suddenly if you did not take that exact same jab you were treated like you were evil and selfish and dangerous. Then it became trust the science, take the jab. Even though the science kept changing, first they said it would stop transmission, then when that did not happen, suddenly the message changed and now it only reduced the effects, and then when that did not hold up either, the story shifted again and now it was about new strains and needing more updated jabs and more injections into your body for something that was not doing what it was originally promised to do, while people were raising real concerns about side effects and health problems and being ignored or attacked. And by the way, this was the same jab they originally told everyone was poison and should never be taken, and then suddenly people were being told they could not fly, could not leave the country, and in many cases could not even keep their jobs unless they took it. And after all of that, they still come back and say the other side does not believe in facts, so they cannot engage with them. And honestly, what are we even talking about at that point? How does anyone reach that conclusion?
Mike Johnson, he's from your home state of Louisiana, the Speaker of the House. I read today he wrote a foreword in a book that subscribes to conspiracy theories and homophobic insults. I thought, Mike Johnson wrote the foreword to the Bible? Do you think Mike Johnson can hold his party together now that he has taken the mantle?
First of all, I don't think he can hold his party together. Second of all, you're exactly right. Mike Johnson and what he believes is one of the greatest threats we have today to the United States. When I promise you, I know these people.
Well, you're talking about Christian nationalism.
Absolutely.
Talking about
this is a bigger threat than Al Qaeda to this country. And let me tell you something. They have Speaker of the House. They got probably at least 2 Supreme Court justices, maybe more. Right? Don't kid yourself. And people in the press have no idea who this guy is, how he was formed, what the threat is, and this is a fundamental threat to the United States. It is a fundamental. They don't believe in the Constitution. They'll tell you that. Mike Johnson himself says, "What is democracy but 2 wolves and a lamb having lunch?" That's what they really, really, really believe. And to say, "Oh, come on, man, that's just some crazy shit." No, they believe that, and they're coming, and they've been doing it forever. They're funded. They're relentless. And, they probably won't win for a while, but
they did win. And whether he was talking about Christian nationalists or Republicans, the reality is Republicans did win after all of this, so he was clearly wrong on that point. But to say that Christian nationalists are somehow a bigger threat than Al Qaeda is honestly one of the most ridiculous things anyone could say. It is so absurd that it barely even deserves a response, because it is one of the dumbest arguments ever made. Christians are practically known for being too passive and too willing to avoid conflict, while other groups are often far more aggressive in defending their beliefs. Christians are passionate about their faith, but they are not known for responding with threats or violence when someone insults their religion, and that is exactly why claiming they are somehow a greater danger than Al Qaeda sounds completely detached from reality. If anything, many people would argue Christians are too passive and too willing to let attacks on their values slide without standing up strongly enough for what they believe. And while nobody is saying physical threats are the answer, pretending Christians are some massive violent danger is laughable. It simply does not match reality. And beyond that, if Christian nationalists actually took over the country, many would argue the country would be in a far better place, because Christians generally live by a moral code with principles, rules, and accountability, while many of the people running things now seem to operate with no moral compass at all, no standards, no responsibility, and endless corruption. So comparing Christian nationalists to Al Qaeda is not only dishonest but completely backwards. If Al Qaeda took over, obviously that would be disaster, but pretending Christians are the greater threat is just political theater at its worst. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about Bill Maher and James Carville going at each other in this heated exchange, because in the end Bill Maher clearly came out on top, while James Carville just looked completely lost like an absolute loony. And it really shows what the woke mind virus can do to people, because whether people like hearing it or not, it is very real.